Okay, so I'm going. Just make me. And 1, 2, 3. I'm here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your time zone. I am Nabil Tirmizi, and I would like to welcome you all to this AIBD regional webinar on prioritizing mental health for media practitioners. We are honored to have participants joining us today from 22 different countries, representing a vibrant and diverse media community. Today's session is an important opportunity to address a very important topic, which is mental health challenges faced by our media fraternity professionals, and to explore practical ways to create a healthier work environment. Our distinguished speakers, with their vast expertise in mental health and journalism, will share valuable insights and strategies that can help us prioritize well being in this demanding industry. So, to follow the agenda to begin our program, it is my pleasure to invite the CEO and Secretariat Director, Ms. Philomena Nanapergasan, to deliver a welcome address. Ms. Philomena, the greatest honors.
Thank you, Nabil. So greetings to everyone. It's really wonderful to see a lot of familiar faces as well. I was listening to the conversation between Dr. Uma and, her glasses and, of course, from Nepal, Mr. Lakshman. So it's really interesting to see so many vibrant and dedicated professionals. Dr. Kasi Sekar, I think, has also signed in, and Dandy from Indonesia. So I'm sure we're going to have a wonderful discussion on a very important topic. I think Nabil mentioned about the earthquake, which happened actually yesterday, some repercussions, and a day before that. We were trying to get in touch with Vanuatu members, but I think it's a bit difficult because they have their own challenges with connectivity right now. So I think this is a fantastic topic because I myself, we are all journalists, and we all know that we are normally the people in the forefront of any crisis. But when a crisis occurs, we are often there rushing to cover the news. But some journalists have told me, in fact, many people whom I meet tell me that the kind of chaos that they see also leave a great impact on their minds. And this impact can be something watching someone die, watching people being killed, looking at how lives are lost in a disaster. So all these have terrible repercussions on the mental health of many of our journalists. So I think it's important to address these issues. And also for those of you who are joining us from newsrooms, heads of newsrooms, people who are manning radio and television stations, it's very important to understand the impact of mental health when journalists are out there covering any kind of news. So I hope that this will be lessons learned, and perhaps we can apply on what can be done to make their life easier. I think people like Dr. Uma has told us how she works with cases of trauma with journalists, and how they are being treated, and what kind of treatment they go through, the psychological impact assessment, and so forth, need to be undertaken and need to be analyzed so that we have better reporters who bring us good stories, and at the same time, we care for the mental health of those who are working on the field. So I'd like to thank all of you who have taken time today to come and join us on this very important topic. And I'm sure this topic will stretch on, and we're being joined by more than, I was told by Nabil, at least 100 people signed up for this webinar. Some are joining us on Facebook and other social media platforms. So I think this is looking towards a healthier and a more inclusive media landscape. So once again, to all of you, thank you for joining. To the participants, I hope you have great takeaways. And it's all back to you now, Nabil, to start with the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Philomena. And moving toward the agenda, that we have a very information-packed session. And all right, so moving to the first thing first, which is the introduction of the moderator of the day. So we will be having speakers from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Papua New Guinea, and Indonesia, and the moderator is Dr. Lakshman that from Nepal. So, if I may have the profile of Mr. Lakshman. So, Mr. Lakshman is the chairperson of Media Action Nepal and also the representative of AMIC for Nepal. Mr. Lakshman Dutt is a global advocate for independent media, renowned for advancing press media and media development. Founder of Media Action Nepal in 2015, he has established MAN as a prominent member of global networks like the Media Freedom Coalition Consultative Network and CFMD. As co-chair of MFCCN, he also provided strategic leadership for over 150 civil society organizations. As invited lecturer at Tbilisi State University and the University of Georgia, Mr. Pant is also Nepal's AMIC country representative, a former UN program specialist and journalist turned editor. His work spans media ethics, journalist safety, and conflict sensitive reporting. Mr. Lakshman, the grade is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Nabil, and thank you very much, AIBD, for this excellent opportunity, gathering diverse insights and expertise to discuss about very challenging at a very important issue of the mental health for media practitioners. So I would like to shed light on some of the crucial aspects of why mental health issue is important for journalists who report uh, in crisis, not only in crisis, but as journalism is a profession of courage and conviction, which comes up with a lot of challenges. And globally, journalists are facing so many challenges, and one of them is definitely mental health. And while reporting from the field, journalists and newsrooms face many problems, ranging from natural disaster to dealing with their results, for example, traumatic events or experiencing rapid industry changes. And that creates some sort of problems on part of the journalist as well. Like journalists facing many problems across the world, the region, as I can see in our distinguished panel today, representing South Asia, Southeast Asia, also Asia Pacific. I can see one of the speakers in the list, that this region also see journalists are exposed to many emotional and physical challenges, safety challenges, and which is definitely hindering their day-to-day work of exposing truth or imparting true information to the public. And also it has some sort of impact to their lives, particularly the quality of reporting. Also, it is very important to have some resilient strategies to address this very much sort of burning issue. And to address these issues, I'm not going into detail about how insights coming to this discussion, but yes, uh, as requested by AIBD and many of the audience today joining from the range of stakeholders, from reporters to editors, and then stakeholders ranging from civil society organizations, academia, socio-psychological experts, and all. So this webinar is aimed to increasing awareness among journalists and also among participants today to prepare for some sort of approaches and strategies to deal with crisis and the well-being of journalists. Also, through this distinguished discussion, we would seek to promote the best practices among media practitioners and media organizers. So there are diverse stakeholders, and the multi-stakeholders approach is there. And this webinar is definitely going to provide some sort of concrete recommendations and concrete approaches to all stakeholders concerned, particularly journalists and newsrooms, academia as well, and people dealing with the trauma during the time of crisis, be it natural or political or any sort of turmoils. So we have very rich sort of expertise today. And with this very brief note, I would like to introduce our speakers today before we go through the presentations. But before that, I would also like to inform that first, five of our speakers today will have presentations about 12 to 15 minutes. Then we will have opportunity to discuss the pressing issues today. So we're starting with Dr. Saikar, who is a consultant and former registrar. Can I have Nabil? Can we have his profile on the screen? I think there is some technical glitch. Yeah, Professor Sekhar Kashi, a distinguished name in the field of psychosocial support in disaster management and emergencies and community mental health in India. He has been associated with the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, which is based in Bangalore over the last 4 decades, with a colossal 40 years experience in the field of disaster psychological support and mental health services. She has also championed the cause of well-being for the uniformed services and has been instrumental in implementing India's largest well-being support program for the Tamil Nadu Police Department at ITBP, Government of India. So can I also have the opportunity to introduce the next speaker, maybe before we go into the presentations? Yeah, we also have Miss Afia Salaman. Ms. Afia Salam's commitment to environmental journalism runs deep, with over 40 years of experience across print, electronic, and web platforms. You definitely bring in the notice of today's audience about the challenges a journalist in the field and newsroom face. And her voice rings loud as a lead and FNF's International Academy of Leadership and Australia Awards Fellow, where she contributes expertise to organizations like PUAN, IUCN commissions, and even the Prime Minister's National Climate Change Council. She shines light on vital environmental issues through advocacy seminars, moderating panels, and shaping policies as a council member. Can we also have our next speaker, please, before we jump into the presentation? As we have with us Dr. Uma Devi Ambihai Pahar, is a Directorate for Social Change and Mental Health, Ministry of Health in Papua New Guinea. She is a pioneer in the field of mental health in Papua New Guinea, having driven mental health services at the national level since 1999. She was granted the Order of British Empire in 2011 by the Queen of England. She trained the first psychiatrist for Solomon Island in 2007 and currently training the first psychiatrist for East Timor and Fiji. She also pioneered and designed mental health programs for seminars in Papua New Guinea and currently conducts training programs. She is also quite well known for her stint on TV for her mental awareness segments in Papua New Guinea's EMTV House and Home program. Can we also have our next speaker, please? Yes, we have Kamran Reza Chaudhary, who is a veteran investigative journalist and columnist, primarily in English publications, and his expertise spans diverse fields, including environment and health and human rights. He is also a recipient of the prestigious Edward R. Murrow Fellowship, and he is also the author of a compendium of maritime and riverine Bangladesh. So the first flagship book on Bangladesh maritime profile. Can we also have our next speaker, please? Dandi Kosaraputra is a seasoned journalist with nearly 3 decades of experience in global media, including the Jakarta Post and Al Jazeera. His expertise spans digital journalism, newsroom management, and international news reporting. Having worked extensively in high-pressure environment, Mr. Koswara Putra brings unique insights into the mental health challenges faced by media professionals, and would definitely be benefited with his expertise today. Yes. Thank you for presenting these introductions in the screen that I read. And looking into the backgrounds of our speakers today, we will have a mix of discussions on how journalists would cope with the mental health situations, but also providing solutions about the challenges. So moving ahead, without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Kasi Sekar for his presentations. You are given, all speakers are given with 12 minutes time, but it's definitely, if you want to expand it, you can go up to 15. But we would definitely like you to make your presentation short so that we will have some sort of engaging discussion with the audience. Over to you, Dr. Kasi Sekar.
At the outset, thank you, Philomena, Nabil, Don, and the back room persons. Thanks for setting the thing on, Dr. Lakshman. I'm reminded of your 12 minutes. So let me start directly with my presentation in terms of talk. Hello? Are you able to?
Yeah,
the
we can
PowerPoint?
listen to you, but there little bit audio problem, but I think you are audible. I think his connection is lost.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, okay, he's back. Okay.
Welcome back, sir. Please carry on.
Let's not cross borders in terms of looking at the resilient newsroom, or in terms of the other three topics of self-care, trauma-informed techniques, and other issues. So I had taken away all of your basic zones so that you have your time to talk about. Let's go of prioritizing mental health scenario for the news personnel. I hope my video is on. Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
I am not. Maybe our colleagues at AIBD
No, your
could help
presentation
to
is not
fix his
visible.
presentation if you have his presentation.
Dr. Kasi, you may reshare your presentation, please.
Yeah, that would be nice. If you can reshare your presentation, Dr. Kasi.
And also your network bandwidth is
Reshare
quite
the
low, so your
Maybe
video is.
one way to address this technical glitch, Dr. Kasi, if you could just go through your audio mode without video at this moment, that would be helpful, I guess.
Okay, fine. Yeah. First and foremost, when
Let's
we look
try
at
this.
health and mental,
I think his connection is.
Yeah. If Mr. Dandy, if you are ready, meantime, if you can present. I know you're traveling, but yes, just to cope with this technical glitch with Dr. Kasi.
Okay. Yeah, let me okay, thank you very much for
Thank you.
inviting me in this prestigious seminar. And actually I agree with Mr. Nabil to participate in the seminar because I wanted to learn from all of you, an expert of mental health affairs. So Yeah, let me share my presentation screen. Okay. Can I send my own presentation material, Mr. Nabil?
Yes, Mr. Dandy, your presentation is being shared from our side.
Oh, I see, because I cannot see the. Okay, hold on, please. It's
You can just swipe your screen and then you'll be able to see the presentation.
I cannot. I mean, can you just um accept my sharing?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Just a
Okay.
okay. Now,
Okay.
let me just make you the co-host.
Okay. Hold on, please.
Okay, now you can, please.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm on the way because I have appointment at the 4 o'clock. So I have to move on to other place. Here you are. Okay, can you see it? Sorry.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, hold on, please. Can you see it?
Still no.
Huh?
Still, we are unable to see your presentation.
Really?
You're online from your laptop or your mobile phone?
Yes. I'm online from laptop.
Laptop. So I think that we can share from our side, Mr. Ipa, if you can share. So let us share. Can you see the presentation now,
Okay.
Mr. Dandy?
Yes.
Can you see the presentation on the screen?
Oh, yes. I can.
All right. So we'll be controlling the slides for you. So yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much again. Yes. I wanted to talk about prioritizing mental health for journalists. Why mental health matters in media industry in Indonesia in particular, but actually it's happened to all of countries and others media outlets actually. Yes, journalism is often called the first drive of history, but if we don't take care of our mental health, it might be the last draft we get to write. Yes, decision will explore why mental health is crucial um, for journalists, particularly in media industry, and we'll discuss the unique challenge the face, uh, the importance of mental health, well-being for journalists and the media industry, and also practical steps to prioritize mental health in the newsroom and beyond. Uh, can you move, please? The importance of mental health in journalism, a case study of Indonesia. Many Indonesian media outlets still lack mental health support for journalists, despite growing awarenesses. This absence can leave a journalist feeling isolated, especially after traumatic event like a terrorist attack or a protest, worsening their mental health issues actually. And then also journalists in our country often face long hours and fight deadline, leading to chronic stress and burnout. This imbalance negativity impact their personal lives and professional performance, leaving them psychically and emotionally drained. And also some media here are addressing journalists' mental health by offering counseling and awareness program. The Indonesian journalists like Alliance Independent of Journalists is advocating for better support system and creating more supportive newsroom environment. Can you move, please? And then unique mental health challenges in Indonesian journalism. Journalists in conflict zone like Papua, Aceh, face violence, ethnic tension, and political unrest, leading to the stress, anxiety, and PTSD. The lack of mental health support exacerbate these challenges. And journalists covering disaster like earthquake and tsunami that happen frequently in Indonesia because we are actually the ring of fire, often experience emotional strain for witnessing devastation and loss, as seen after the 2004 and 2018 in Palu, Central Sulawesi tragedies, and also a tsunami in Aceh. And then journalists reporting on sensitive political issue in Indonesia face harassment and threat, creating constant stress and anxiety, with some experiencing emotional exhaustion from fear and retaliation. And then also journalists face censorship from the, either from government or from other media outlets, leading to frustration and stress, self-censorship due to fear of reprisal can cause ethical dilemmas and mental strain. And also mental health remain taboo in Indonesia, discouraging journalists from seeking support. The competitive nature of journalism combined with stigma worsen mental health issues. And then also the pressure of tight deadline and 24/7 news cycle lead to long hour and poor work-life balance, resulting in the chronic stress, burnout, and deteriorating mental health. And then lack of mental health resources, many our newsroom lack of mental support service, leaving journalists to suffer in silence, which negativity impact their work and well-being. And then also journalists face online harassment, cyberbullying, leading to the same isolation and low self-esteem, which further harm their mental. And then move to other slide, please. Thank you. And the link between mental health and productivity in journalism. Long hour and emotional strain lead to, again, burnout, reducing creativity, focus, and work quality. Absenteeism and presenteeism and mental health issue cause absenteeism, but presenteeism is also common with journalists working while struggling with mental health challenges. And then also physical stress increase the risk of physical health issue like hypertension and heart disease, highlighting the link between mental and physical well-being. Move, please. And also the how mental health affect journalism on the personal level. Journalists covering traumatic event like natural disaster, as I mentioned earlier, also face a prolonged emotional strain, leading to fatigue, detachment, and diminished empathy. impacting work and retaliation, and also conflict. Again, journalists reporting expose journalists to trauma, causing PSC
It looks like Mr. Dandy's audio is gone.
like a
Are you with us? Yeah. Mr. Dandy, are you with us?
yes.
Yeah, please carry on. Your audio was
Sorry.
lost for a
Oh,
moment.
sorry. I think I just punched the mute. Okay. Yes. A fast packed work environment make it hard to disconnect, causing chronic stress, insomnia, and mental health decline. Fear and retribution when covering a sensitive topic lead to ethical conflict, stress, and feeling of guilt. Coping mechanism and substance uh, stress and trauma may push journalists to use alcohol or drug, worsening mental health and work performance. And then mental health struggles can cause also disillusionment, lower productivity, and detachment from work. And also anxiety or depression affect focus, organization, and judgment, lowering reporting quality. Also, financial stress, low wage, and job insecurity exacerbate a mental health struggle, leading to anxiety again and reduced job performance. This version deliver key point clearly and concisely while retaining the original intent. Let me okay move to uh, uh, other slide, please. Can you see it? Um,
Yes, we can see. And Mr. Dandy, may I request you to speed up?
oh,
And
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we better I mean discuss this issue because
mhm.
I have still three more slides. But I think basically we I mean we can discuss this issue with other speaker and
Yeah.
participant. I think
That would really
I
be
and
nice,
yes,
Mr. Dandy. You touched on
thank
really,
you, thank you,
great
thank you
issues
very
of
much.
how mental health affects the productivity in journalism, and we'll come back to you with a few questions, follow-up
Sure.
questions later on. But at this
Okay.
moment, I would like to move ahead with another presentation. If Ms. Afia Salam is with us from Pakistan, can I request you to have your presentation, Ms. Afia?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this very important discussion, AIBD, and all of you. Nabil, can you run the presentation?
Yes, it's being loaded. Just a moment.
Okay, sure. So this is the overarching topic, and under that, the topic that was assigned to me was creating resilient newsrooms. What I would like to mention here first off is that many of the things Mr. Dandy had presented, they may not just be common to Indonesia, because we see so many similarities of the issues he has pointed out in the media landscape in Pakistan as well. So I think, and I mean, we connect with media people across South Asia, and we know that many of the points that he was articulating are common to so many of the other South Asian countries. So I'll just, sort of, I wanted to acknowledge that he's put those points out there, and they're very common points for all of us as well. Thank you. Next. So this, I would like to put this in the context because the topic is newsrooms. And newsrooms give a kind of an image that most people who have worked in. I've also worked in newspaper as well as a television channel. And because of the time span that I've spent in journalism, I've seen them evolve, I've seen them change. And I think that's the only thing that we have to deal with. And that is something that we have to keep pace with. And that is how our responses also need to evolve. Next. So this, I mean, this is just sort of a pictorial manifestation of how newsrooms have evolved over the period. And while there are still newsrooms functioning, which are represented by maybe the picture number 2 and 3 and 4, I would actually like us towards the end to focus on the last picture, because that is how increasingly the threats to the journalists that we are perceiving to their mental health, etc. And this is one cohort of journalists which somehow falls outside the periphery of where any kind of redressal mechanisms are being suggested. Next. So, and it is because of this, because the media has changed, the audience and the newsrooms have changed. The organized newsrooms are few and far between. There is a media resource crunch which has seen the newsrooms shrinking. And that shrinking of newsrooms also has had a great bearing on the mental health of the media fraternity. Next. So this was, something we used to talk about. The radio killed the newspaper, then television killed the radio star. Now web journalism threatens to kill TV. And even though the television channels are there as a dominant media, but increasingly it's the web arm which is being accessed more and more. People don't really, they don't really become the captive audience of television screens anymore, because they can access whatever they need on their phones. And especially in Pakistan, the teledensity is so great that most of the content that is being consumed, and there are reports and there are statistics available, which I didn't think would matter over here, but they're all publicly available on various websites, which show that the consumption of content is increasingly through their telephones, through the cell phones. So this is why we now see a plethora or a complete explosion of journalism on the which we call mobile journalism or mojo, and web journalism. And the major media houses also are investing a lot into this medium. And this is why now their traditional newsrooms are shrinking. And that comes, with the allied challenges and threats and the mental health issues related to that new scenario. Next. Next, Nabil. Yeah. So this has been cause of great mental stress, because while the media is expanding, the space for media practitioners is actually shrinking. Now one person is able to capture a lot and present it, so the media houses don't feel the need to invest in the human resource that was earlier employed to bring the same amount of news to its consumers. And then the consumers also have a greater choice to keep them focused on their channel or their content. It's becoming very, very competitive. It is becoming very, very difficult. The audience has become, I don't want to use that word, but for lack of a better one, fickle. They do not have those kind of loyalties to a certain media house, so that would earlier sustain them as a business. And this is why we are seeing a lot of shifting ground in this field. Next. So what has happened with this shift is that the first movers, especially the younger generation, who's like the digital native rather than people like us who are the digital migrants, they have been seen as the front runners. They've been able to win the race in this game, and the late adapters have been struggling or have become redundant, and that redundancy again affects the mental health. And as Mr. Andy had mentioned, the stigma attached to even admitting that you have any kind of a mental health issue, or you're under stress, or even you're worried or depressed, is had earlier made this topic even taboo. Nobody would broach upon it. Nobody would admit to it. Nobody would, think that they can speak about it, because it was seen as a weakness within your personality, that you were not able to cope with the changes and you're not able to keep in step with the times. So this is still there. It's slowly changing, very slowly, but it is still a huge issue where people or organizations haven't gone out and tackled it head on, and have shown that this is not a personality disorder or personality weakness, but this has various external and internal factors which bear upon you, and it can be redressed. So earlier, even the acknowledgement wasn't there, but now not only acknowledgement, but also redressal mechanisms are very slowly making their appearance. Next. So these things, because of these shifting landscape of the media itself and the changing newsrooms, so fear of redundancy and job loss and economic insecurity in a country like ours, which already is facing economic issues, and we are an developing country, where we do not have those social safety nets like social security, etc. So this is a source of great mental stress, because people have a family, they have many other expenses, they have to cater to their day-to-day life and their schooling and housing. So one job loss just completely throws a spanner into their scheme of things, and there are very few coping mechanisms, and this very badly affects their mental health. It also, the fear of doing that, as well as obviously losing the job, compromises performance, which leads to a professional downslide. And that again, is a slippery slope. When you're on the downslide, it's very difficult unless and until there is assistance provided to you to be able to either arrest that slide, or be able to learn new skills or upgrade your skills. And not very many media houses have the resources or the will to invest into these kind of things. So they are just looking at the bottom line, and bottom line unfortunately does not cater to the actual human issues. They just look at the business issues. Next. So those factors are exacerbated by intense competition within the fraternity, and as I mentioned, lack of opportunities. So if the we have the first movers who are already able to move on to the the new media, but there are within newsrooms, we have people who are not adept at that technology. So those newsrooms are not moving fast enough to be able to upgrade the skills. And this is why they keep falling behind professionally. And when you keep falling behind professionally and there is a shrinking newsroom, so then you're the first one out. At any downsizing in an organization, you will see the old guard being let go. And old guard means they already have a family to support, they have several responsibilities, and very few other openings and opportunities. Because those who have spent their life in the media, they barely ever get to work in any other field or professional field. So it's not as if, there are opportunities for transitioning into something else. So this is a huge challenge which needs a greater focus than we see right now. Next. Yeah, so what hasn't changed is the nature of news coverage. We still need to know whatever is going on. And this is why we need not just resilient newsroom, but a resilient media fraternity overall. The management needs to be resilient. It needs to be cognizant of the new changes that are happening all around them if they want to stay in business, and also to make it to stay relevant. The people within the news media, they need to upgrade their skills and learn new things to be able to stay relevant. Next. Yeah, we still have external factors like wars, crimes, political turmoil. I'm sorry, something happened to the slide. Wars, crime, political turmoil, and I think that was. Let me take a look at my own slide here. But I think this still conveys the picture that these are the factors that. Sorry, I think the slide has shifted down a little bit, Nabil. Never mind, I'll read it off this. Yes, economic crunch. Well, you can go back to the slide. Yeah, that's the economic crunch after that. Conflict, disasters, economic crunch. And these things are there. These things still have to be covered. And as very rightly mentioned by Mr. Dandy, reporters in my country have been through wars and conflict. We've had several natural disasters. Pakistan straddles, the top 10 bracket of the most vulnerable countries to climate change. Uh, with increasing disasters and increase in poverty, there's increase in crime. We've had political instability and turmoil and a polarization within the society because of that. And our reporters generally fall by the wayside. They get caught in the middle. Objective reporting is not seen as objective unless and until it is, in favor of a certain side. So anybody who's on the wrong side of that reporting takes it almost as a personal affront, and then the reporters bear the brunt of that. They've had physical threats, cyberbullying has been mentioned, cyber harassment, and cyber crimes against them. For the vilification, the falsification of data. Now we have, artificial intelligence. We've seen altering of images and deep fake videos vilifying these very reporters. And this new threat has actually brought in a lot of mental stress on how to be able to navigate this very dangerous territory, which is fraught with personal, not just professional issues, but personal dangers, because these issues reach not just in the cyberspace. From the cyberspace, we've seen them spill over into the personal and physical space as well. Next. Now, since I was supposed to speak about newsroom, howsoever shrunken their current state be, but these are many of the factors which people working within the newsroom face. There are repressive media laws. There is fear of persecution under those laws. There's also lack of employer support in many cases when the reporter falls foul of either the government or powerful lobbies. There is lack of support, and the employers, instead of standing with their own reporter, usually bow down to the pressure that is being borne on them either by the authorities or by, again, those powerful lobbies. There is many times there is bias in upward mobility. It's not just the good performance that gets you to receive promotions and other incentives. So that working in that kind of a toxic environment also has bearing on the mental health. There is there is harassment, overt and covert. I'm not limiting it only to the sexual harassment that many females face within the newsrooms as well as online because they are a member of the media fraternity. But even males also face harassment, which can be professional harassment, political harassment, all kinds of harassment. And because there is a lack of any insurance in case of work related accidents or incidents, that also plays on their mental health. That do they go beyond the call of duty or go that extra mile, or try to get that exclusive story at the risk to their personal safety. Sometimes they are pushed to beyond safe limits by the gatekeepers within the media houses. They are made to go into potential conflict zones without the adequate security gear or the safety trainings, and that itself is very, very alarming and very stressful to be able to go there. And sometimes when they do face the brunt, when they do get injured, adequate support is not there. So, work related accidents do not find adequate support. I would like to quote the example of one of our colleagues, a CNN journalist who has recently been awarded for her bravery to take on her employers when she had a work related injury and she was sidelined, Saima Mosen. So these things, then they play on the mental health, and you're not able to perform to the best of your ability. And then obviously you're not seen as a person who needs to be, rewarded for the kind of work you're doing. So both ways, it's impacting on the mental health of the journalists. Next.
Afia, I'm sorry, you are
Speed it up.
sharing really interesting newsroom realities related to mental health, which are very important. But you exceeded time by four
Okay,
minutes, so you will have opportunity to respond some of
that's
our
okay. I
questions
mean,
later
all
on.
right.
And if
Sure,
you
sure.
can sum up in 30 seconds now, maybe.
Well, these are basically, this is my last slide actually. In an organized newsroom, there are ways and mechanisms and like the best practices that our moderator had mentioned, those need to be applied. And if you go on to the last slide, that is saying for the redressal for the independent journalists, we need to look what we can do for them, for the freelancers, because they are also providing a service to journalism, and there's hardly anything to take care of their issues. So my recommendation is to collaborate, tie up with the other organizations who already have best practices, take help from them, and put these things in place. I'll
Thank
stop
you.
here.
Thank you very much, Afia. We'll come back to you later on during the discussions. I'm going back to Dr. Kasi Sekar, who I think he faced some technical glitch, and I think it is okay for him to present. But if you are still facing the technical problem, I would like to request you to focus on how, as you heard two of our speakers, one of them said about how mental health issues are creating problems for the productivity of news content in the newsroom, while another speaker highlighted on the newsroom reality. So you're coming from the background of psychosocial support. Maybe if you highlight on how media organizations integrate the mental health frameworks into their newsrooms to support journalists, that would be really great. Dr. Kasi, over to you.
Thank you for the thing. Let us prioritize mental health for media practitioners from the larger international and other perspective. Can I have the next slide? Nabil? Yeah. So let us understand health is a state of a complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Just not the word emotional or mental or other sort of a issue. It's not the mere absence of a disease or an infirmity. Most of the time with the media personnel, what I have seen is that the reactions, what my earlier two speakers spoke about, are true for even for a general public, that they are into a sort of a place where they have to vent out their emotions, but they can't. And that itself creates a reaction, and these reactions become a symptom, and the symptom becomes a syndrome. That is where, as a mental health professional and psychosocial issue, mental health is clearly an integral part of your own health, and without health, there is no mental health. None of you touched on this particular issue because we don't know that all these psychosocial and mental issues turn out to have the other comorbidity of illness like your blood pressure or in terms of the uh, diabetes or and a large amount of other healthcare issues. Next. So it is not a single entity. So mental health adds to quality of life if in case you are able to have look at all the aspects of life of the individual, his family, society, and the economy. Your own two earlier personnel spoke about how it is affecting their own economy and other things as the things are now growing, media issues and all. So mental health has a reciprocal relationship with well-being and productivity. So at the end of the day, my stand for all the media companies is that if you want your productivity to be good, look at the mental health of your person and the quality associated life years you are providing to them. Next. Next. Yeah. The cost of poor mental health has been estimated to account for 3 to 4% of the GDP in developed countries. Imagine in developing and underdeveloped countries how it is going to be. So you are going to have a mass which is not going to be much productive from your viewpoint, and you are going to carry a backpack. So this is a first warning to all the organizations that if you are not looking at that particular issue, you will land up in creating untreated mental health problems can have profound, long-lasting social and economic consequences. By this, you are adding to something that mental illness contributes to disability-associated life years lost, which is called as DALYs. In the earlier one, I spoke about the reasons for the media organizations to look at a quality-associated life year. But if you're not going to be definite that you're going to be pushed to DALYs and your productivity is going to come down drastically. Next. Next. So mental health is just not the mere absence of a mental disorder, but a state of a well-being in health. Afiza has spoken about it very well in terms of what are the issues which are occurring in terms of the well-being of the person. So every individual realizes his or her own potential. Never underestimate your own newsroom personnel, individual personnel in terms of the potential. Each has a potential to come in, especially the seniors, the way she has elocuted about in terms of how they can be useful in providing their own consultancies and all. And every individual, when he realizes his potential, can cope with normal stresses of life. But remember, you are not in your normal stresses of life like any other common man. You are working most of the time in disasters, war zones, and other places. And you need to be, and your work can be productively and fruitful if you are able to make a contribution to your own community back in the newsroom and all. Next. So the spectrum of health is on two ways. It's like a pendulum, starting from positive health to better health to freedom from sickness. And the other way, it could be unrecognized sickness, what most of these media personnel do carry, to mild sickness, which they might once in a way report about it, and severe sickness, they are totally washed out of the scenario until their death and all. So one has to look at how we can provide better health and positive health among our media personnel, and to look at it, we need to adopt, next slide, health promotion strategies. Next slide. Yeah. When you're talking about the health promotion strategy, the process need to enable people to increase control over their health and its determinants and thereby improve their health. So what are these determinants and other things? The science and art of helping people to change their lifestyle to move towards a state of optimal health, which includes physical, emotional, social, spiritual, and intellectual health. Most of the time, our media personnel back on the scenario over and above what Fiza had spoken about. They are not well equipped with the type of material what they have to have and other thing, are also lacking in terms of their over involvement in terms of saying an extended honeymoon period. working for more than 18 hours and 24 hours and coming back, like our first speaker spoke about, they are almost in terms of a larger stress and burnt out sort of a cases. And later they carry a phenomena called as a PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So if you have to take that, the first sort of a thing, providing a face time out is much, much important for every personnel, both in the newsroom and the other one, not in terms of reduction or using your technology or your artificial intelligence in doing that. Next. And providing that particular mental health and well-being, there is a purpose in life for every one of us, having a hope in about life and the future, having the desire to live a fulfilling time, and a relationship with the others, having a sense of belongingness, emotional attachment and family and the friends, and being engaged to a larger level with the basic necessities which are most of the time denied in some of the places where we do go for our work in terms of food and water, shelter and clothing, healthcare, or the financial security. I would go one step further in terms of whether insurance facilities are there for these sort of a persons, except for 2 or 3 assignments where we went in, they had been able to provide that for risk zones and other things and all. And having a self-respect, which most often decreases the self-esteem of the person and later the adjustment of them. And the attitude about their own self decreases to a larger extent. Next. So mental health determinants is basically on the career progress is a crucial period of developing and uh, maintaining the social and emotional habits, which is important for the well-being. And if this environment is not provided within the newsroom or the organization, there's a larger amount of a problem. These include adopting healthy sleep patterns, taking regular exercise, developing coping mechanisms which are positive, problem solving and interpersonal skills, and learning to manage emotions. The thought process which converts at emotions later turn as behavior, which makes a larger problem to the entire group. It is estimated currently 10 to 20% of persons globally experience mental health conditions, yet these remain underdiagnosed and undertreated. Yes, the stigma is slowly disappearing for people to talk about, I'm having some problem, but not able to very clearly articulate that problem, saying that I'm having anxiety, I'm having a depression, or talking about the exact signs and symptoms. Because outside your newsroom and other things, you're normal. But the moment you enter into that, you become jittery and a large amount of other issues which come into your mind. Next. So, protecting and promoting mental health has to be more in terms of not only the absence of a illness, but also take care of the reactions and their behavior and provide a high quality of life. And mental health and well-being are influenced by many factors which are within the individual's control and beyond it. But the beyond it is much larger ocean in terms of the situations where we go for work. And social factors are very, very crucial to mental health and well-being, which is a larger entity to talk about. And over and above that, next, you have the poverty. Next, yeah, poverty, not having enough income to provide for basic necessities. And I'm finding certain personnel with whom I had been working for quite some time that at least today will I have a coverage for a 500 rupee or 1,000 rupee. Sort of a thing which comes down to them with the intervention of various other medias which has come in. And thanks, Afia, starting the thing with the historical note of how the earlier newsrooms were there and the current one which is bringing in. And in this particular abject poverty is that these persons chose a career, a uniform career, which ranks 5th in terms of the highest stress-producing job, yet they came with a passion. And that passion makes them to remain in the field. But the inequality divides to a larger portion, and social isolation within the group and the loneliness, what they feel, creates to a large amount of a mental health issue. So we need to look at whether the social isolation is replaced by inclusiveness rather than the other one. And sometimes, as earlier speaker said, some of us are illiterate, semi-literate with the current technologies in terms of your information technology and other things. They should not be sidelined on that particular issue, whether the organizations can put in to look at the rapid social change in terms of the various things which are coming in and invest on those. Next. The major issue is in terms of our media personnel is in terms of the emergencies. I'm not even describing as disaster because emergencies do keep up coming up every day in almost all the front, and stressful work condition, excessive demand, lack of support and encouragement and health hazards can make a person feel. A person with a diabetes not having any of a thing and going into the media room and working for 4 to 6 hours, the type of other consequences which brings in will be very, very visible in terms of the reactions what he is saying. And discrimination and other human rights violations, the rest of the two speakers have spoken about in a larger amount of a thing. The violence and abuse, again, which important negative psychological impacts in terms of the abuse, what they undergo. Physical health conditions can prevent everyday barriers and challenges, and inexistent or inadequate services or support, which I have found in many of these media organizations cropping up and bringing in human rights violation into picture. So to put it much more conceptually, next one, there is a causal and a protective factor. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. There is a causal and a protective factors which are affecting mental health of it in terms of the disaster and the mental health scenario. There are proximal factors and there are distal factors which are there. And the proximal and distal factors, the outcomes of it can either lead to a mental health, good mental health or poor mental health. So we need to look at the current scenario of the proximal factors and the distal factors and how they can bring in issues for us in terms of protecting the mental health of the person. Next one. So towards the end of it, I would say that there needs to be a larger investment in terms of mental health promotion and prevention aimed at an individual capacity to regulate their emotions, enhance the alternatives to risk-taking behaviors, build resilience for difficult circumstances and adversity, and supportive social environment and social networks. These programs require a multi-level approach with varied delivery platforms, for example, digital media, health and social care settings, or the community and varied strategies to reach media personnel, particularly the most vulnerable among the media personnel. Next. So how to promote your mental health is that create environments and living conditions that can contribute to mental health, treat others with dignity and respect, provide emotional support, connect people to supports, advocate for better environments and improved living conditions, fight poverty and social injustice in your system, autonomy and respect for the preferences of the persons. Next. And what are the challenges we are going to have? There is a low literacy of people on mental health. A simple factor, I am not sure whether our own colleagues do know in terms of what is a psychosocial first aid. The basic things are three: look, listen, and link the person to an appropriate agency where we could, or an appropriate person where they could refer the thing. This psychosocial first aid, I kindly request AIBD that NIMANS has started this online course of about 18 hours duration, 18 session duration, which they would benefit a lot for the personnel to undergo, number one. And low introsectoral and the intersectoral cooperation and inadequate mental health programs. The second challenge what I am facing is this, and as a option what we are offering is that can we do some micro studies, especially with small islands like Fiji, Vanuatu, or things like that, to align with our current approach in terms of the larger disaster risk reduction strategy internationally of both a HRV inside the newsroom as well as the community to whom we serve. And poor quality and inconsistency in taking care of chronic diseases. Does our organization have a program of not just a health insurance, but an audit in terms of how is the healthcare of our own personnel along with us? poor structure, system process, and resources of mental health system in the country also may contribute to it. So let us look at these sort of challenges in a positive manner and look forward that we can provide some of these things on an online basis as well as offline in terms of giving certain activities and other workshops for people who are there in terms of looking either at the organization, individual, or the larger aspect of it. Align along with the HRV, hazard risk vulnerability in your own newsroom as well as the community, and look at adaptation for such sort of an issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kasi. You touched on so many interesting issues of the psychosocial aspects of mental health for journalists. Many interesting issues, but I also agree with your observations that, the resilience is something that individuals' capacities to cope with the emotions, which is very much required in the newsrooms to cope with the mental health issues. Next, I'm inviting Mr. Kamaran Reza Chaudhary from Bangladesh. He comes from the background of investigative journalism. Since he does not have any PowerPoint presentations, I would like to request you to focus on two important issues, given your background coming from the investigative journalism practice and listening our previous speakers as well. How do you, what are your recommendations for journalists to manage health impact of mental health impact of sensitive issues, for example, human rights violations of migrations? We have seen this part of the world in South Asia, in Bangladesh as well. Nepal is, for example, going through a post-conflict scenario, and impunity for crimes against journalists remains a huge cry. So what are your suggestions for journalists to cope or deal with the sensitive issues of migration and human rights? And also, if you can touch on how academia or mentorship play a role for making newsrooms resilient in terms of strengthening, readdressal system for mental health issues. Over to you, Kamran, and you have 12 to 15 minutes time.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Laxman,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I have 15 minutes. Thank you very much for choosing me as one of the speakers. First of all, to pinpoint what the tips should be for journalists to maintain good mental health, I need to express, I think, share some of the experiences to make it easier for the listeners. First, I want to start with Dr. Kashi's statement. He said that maintaining mental health for contributing to the newsroom. I would say, I would expand it a little bit, contributing to journalism. And his information he gave in his presentation is that mental health cost 3 to 4% of the GDP. I think it is very moderate calculation. I don't have any specific research on that, but its impact is huge in the age of this complex internet-based society, very complex society. So as far as mental health is concerned, what I want to tell my journalism career spans at least 26 or 27 years. I'm going to touch 27 years in journalism. First as a cub reporter, then as a full-time staffer, 6 media outlets, and now freelancer for 10 years, researcher. First of all is that mental health in journalism is really is overlooked issue as far as Bangladesh is concerned, Bangladesh newsroom is concerned. During the last 26 to 27 years, I have seen very little effort from the news management to take the issue seriously. For example, it has huge impact. Mental health, I think every incident we cover, I want to refer one or two or three issues. First, at the age when I was in journalism for just 3 years, then I was assigned to cover a launch disaster in which over 100 people drowned in a disaster, the ship disaster, in a river which was still it is 7 kilometers wide. And for the first time, I never saw such a huge river because I'm from the drier areas of Bangladesh. And I was given the assignment to cover that. So I saw every dead body being dragged out of the coast of the river, how people are screaming, how women are screaming, how they're, I think, expressing their grief. It was heartrending. Really, that was really painful for me. So what I did, I forgot my identity as a journalist. Instead, I focused on sharing their experience with me. This is a big challenge. Another incident I want to refer is that I was given an assignment by my news boss to cover an incident where a 5-year-old boy was abducted and killed. So the scene I saw, the mutilated body and the heartrending situation. I'm getting emotional. I'm yet to get out of that trauma. So it was very difficult for me. When I came back to newsroom, my chief reporter asked me what you have got from that. I was really fumbling. I was fumbling what I have done. Then my chief reporter, he died. He's a very gentleman. He said, it was my mistake. You are a young chap. I should have given you some tips. What? First of all, this is your first or second experience, but remember one thing. You're a journalist. You have dual entity within yourself as a human being, and second, as a reporter. You cannot be moved by the emotion. You have to check your emotion first. Because when you are emotional, every single detail or even bigger picture will be getting out of your eyes. Your duty is to inform the people what you have seen, what has happened. You have to take note of it, observe carefully, and let people know. So these were the tips my boss gave me, but there is no organized planning from the newsroom. It was number one newspaper or two newspaper, but it was not given any support like that. I was sitting at the reporting chair in front of the computer, and I was really, I couldn't even utter something. So I connected my expression with my boss's tips, and I found that I lost many of the things. Have you talked to the police? I mean, no. Have you talked to the mother or father or the relative? No. So I was really lost in the incident. So if I had the prior tips and some sort of orientation that while going to the assignment like covering like that, you will have to be a little bit, you have to have control over your emotion. Because the first statement of the people that are the most authentic and that determine the course of the investigation, what I've seen. But that tip helped me a lot because when in 2013, the biggest industrial disaster took place in Bangladesh, you might have heard the name of Rana Plaza disaster. Over 1,100 people died. Government worker died in the building collapse. So what happened? I was given the assignment on the second day. The news management said, we want to get the first team back to the newsroom. And the second team, you'll be leading the second team, you go there with a fresh eye. So what I saw while walking along the road to the building, the road that leads to the accident site, I saw people carrying the bundles of air freshener. The first impression that came to my mind, why this air freshener is being in so big quantity is being taken to the site. I was proceeding toward the building, the industrial accident site, and could understand why they are carrying this air freshener. because it was very hot and humid temperature in April, and the decomposed body is spreading bad smell. So for the first time in my life, I saw that I could get the stench of the dead body, decomposed dead body inside the building. So I tried to check my emotion, and I could check. I went to the site and watching the rescue operation, one after one, another cops being dragged out of the building, and everybody is trying to help each other. So I wrote a story, and that was a very big lesson. And the latest lesson I want to share with this, because I have so many disasters, it will take hours. I don't want to waste my valuable time and your valuable time. The last anti-autocracy movement in Bangladesh, because we were fighting both with the police, the ruling party, armed cadres, and the protesters at the same time. So what we did, I as a reporter, over 1.5 months, I was in the street, because there is a huge straight clash between the two sides. And we always had to take refuge in the side of the police, because otherwise police will shout at us. Every time we had to take the fear. When I passed one night, and went back to my house, I couldn't express my emotion to my family members, because I do not want to share that experience with my family members. So still I'm getting out of the trouble. Very difficult, especially with the freelancers. We are completely overlooked, completely overlooked, because I work for a media house in Washington, D.C. They want stuff, they want video, they want photo, they want stories, but they do not look after my mental health condition, what in which condition I'm working for. They just give us some tips and suggestions. Be safe. Okay, they're liberal enough to give me some bulletproof jacket and helmet. It's good. I'm sorry that I got emotional, because at one time my wife was very furious. Why you are going out like this? You cannot sleep at night. You should not continue journalism for this time. You leave it. On August 5th, when the government, Hasina fled to India, my wife was holding me in a way that you cannot go out, because situation is very dangerous. But I said, I cannot stay at my house, no matter whether I die or be alive, because otherwise I will not be in journalism. I cannot be a journalist. So the hangover is still going on. At the same time, what happened after the collapse of Awami League government? 3 days, there was no government in Bangladesh. So bad people were ganging up, and there's a massive looting of people's wealth and property, irrespective of religion, irrespective of any economic status. So what happened? People were ganging up. They are protecting them with the stakes and others. There was no police force. So that is the issue. Still we're hanging. Still hangs of this are the memories. Yes, we know what we need to do. So the question the moderator has raised, what the journalist should have done. First of all, it should be initiated by the news management they work for a formal newsroom. The newspaper management or the television, whatever you say, media outlets, I will say, they should be given training to the trainee reporters from the very early stage of their career. They should be associated, there should be some sort of training with the mental health institutes. It may be national, it may be international organizations, it may be NGOs, whatever organization. Plus, there should be some sort of engagement with the detective skill of the government or the police. Because if they work with them slowly, they will try to understand what are the situations they will be going to face while covering the disasters and others. So this is a very difficult challenge. We have to maintain two entities. One is journalist, one is an individuals. Covering these disasters and tragic incidents kill our human values to some extent. For example, I want to say, when I was only 5 to 6 years in journalism, I was given night duty. The crime chief, the crime reporters used to work beside me and used to call the police station saying, "Hey, police, how many wickets have fallen today to this night?" The word "how many wickets" means how many deaths. Can you understand what sort of ugly statement we make? And it's very easy. Police and journalists, they connect very easily with these ugly terms. Then I said to my, that newspaper is a large Bangla newspaper. Dada, he was a Hindu man. I used to call him Dada. Dada, why you are using this sort of words? It's a human issue. One, how he could have told that how many people were murdered, how many incidents were there. He said, you will not understand. When you will come to my stage, you will also talk like this. Will this feeling fit with the people's human value? What ugly character we take by covering in this way without any orientation? I raised some questions like this. So mental health is a big issue because, frankly speaking, since the uprising in Bangladesh and the fall of the government, my income has fallen 2/3 because I cannot work. Dr. Kasi has raised the issue that low income. I earn a lot of money. I used to earn a lot of money. I'm a researcher. I write book. This is the book I wrote. My second book. I couldn't give you a written presentation, PowerPoint presentation because of my second book. It is in the stage of publication. So it is a huge issue. I cannot share my experience with anyone. We're left out, simply left out. And still we are fearing the reporters who covered the incident. Lot of journalists, they're facing this sort of dilemma. They are fighting with themselves, and it will, I don't know what will happen next. So I want to stop here. If you have any further question, just let me, because I have got emotional, so I may be leaving something out of your expectation. If you have any expectation or questions, please make your questions. I'll be trying my best to answer.
Thank you, Kamran Chaudhary. Thank you very much for sharing with us your own story, going through, the mental health issues while reporting and also coping with the environment, the recent political turmoil in Bangladesh as well. I think you actually carried on from what our previous speaker highlighted about coping with the individual capacity to deal with the mental health emotions. And thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. We're moving to next, and we have with us Dr. Uma Devi from Papua New Guinea. Can you have your presentation, Dr. Uma?
I think Nabil can share with us. Nabil? Is Nabil there? Okay. All right. So thank you, Nabil, and all of you. And thank you for having me again. And I hope you can hear all of you. Moderator, can you hear me, Lakshman?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So I know that Dr. Kasi actually did a very nice presentation to understand what is mental health and what we should be doing. But let me tell you one to start off with. The journalist in my life, basically as a psychiatrist, I must say that they are one of the most beautiful and very important professionals who make a big difference for the people of any country. So they should be very proud at this moment when the reason I get connected to the journalists, because in Papua New Guinea, the journalists are so beautiful. They love to hear about mental health. They work against the stigma and discrimination. They come all out to educate the people. So I wanted to say that without the journalists in Papua New Guinea, I wouldn't be here, first of all. So, first of all, I want to say thank you to the professionals, and I'm sure that all of us will go through a lot of hardship as a human being. Now, I wanted to, I think, Nabil, you can continue to put the slides on to make it easier for that. So I'm going to actually focusing, because Dr. Kasi actually said everything right, to keep up. And I want to say that we know that disasters are not very rare events, and it happens, and most of them, we can have what you call them, disasters. It can be natural disasters or man-made disasters. So the trauma and disasters are very common, and it have a very big impact personally, and also families, communities, and nationwide. So it's not only journalists, but then it happens to everybody who will actually go through something in their life as an event. So also that the stresses include basically to the, not only death, but also bereavement, grief. It's so much, it affects the mind of the person. So I really like to say mind of every one of us is a very precious thing, and we forget. We most of the time when we talk about mental health, we think about mental illness, and we need to be like a schizophrenia or manic depressive, serious mental illness. But we forget that mental health has got the minor mental health issue, which that's what, even Dr. Kasi was talking about, the impact, the productivity, the quality of the lifestyle, all these things. It's like how you feel about your person, how you feel about another person, how you can cope with the day-to-day life. If you feel not good about yourself and not good about another person, and you can't cope with the day-to-day life, then you have got a mental health issue. That doesn't mean you're mentally ill, need admission. No, something is bothering not to be able to cope with the day-to-day life. So like in the comment response in this slide, because I wanted to specifically say that we can discuss things further on, it's reassuring to know sometimes unpleasant things happen, and what we go through in our life is a normal reaction to an abnormal event. So we are not going crazy. Okay, but these are feelings. So the next slide also will tell you, but I'm sure the slides will be shared with others. There are things happens in emotions and thinking, behavior, and so on. So when you say emotion, you see sadness. As soon as something happens in your life, you become very sad. I'm not going to go very detailed because of the time limit. And then you will see that emotionally you become very shame. And then Nabil, we just continue to do that so that we can be continue. So and then what happens in physically, the physical problem, you can be easily startled with the issues, and then you will also continue to feel that your heart is palpitation, trembling, sweating, breathing difficulties, headaches, and so on. And then you will see that physically you can also have sleep disorders and so on. These are commonly the response to any disasters, whether man-made or natural disasters. When you see some kind of trauma, you'll go through that. The next slide also, Nabil, you can continue. The other process is thinking. We talked about emotions, and then we talked about physical, and what happened to your thinking power. It affects your memories. You have dreams, and also you will be thinking about confusion. These are things happen, and I'm sure that you are going to see these things. You will know that flashbacks and all these things are frightening events. Those are things that it's all normal reaction. I don't want anybody to get perturbed while I'm talking about it. The next one is the behavior. So the behavior, what happened, it affects your social, like you withdraw yourself, easily irritable, feeling detached, loss of interest. Can you imagine how much it can have effect on your family, not only you, family, and your work and your productivity and so on. And it affects your work and your way, your journalism. You might be such a smart person. It can affect those things, because how they all have actually shared. But then I'm coming to bring you with some bullet points to understand. It affects your habits also. So increase your alcohol use, cigarette use, drugs, and loss of appetite and loss of interest, enjoyable and loss of sexual interest, and so on. So the next the slide will show you. Okay, so the signs and symptom described I was talking about are basically a frightening, and these kind of reactions and experiences does happen, and most of them basically normally is a process of recovery. That's what I was going to tell you. Not everybody will go through that. It's a normal reaction. You're going to get adopted. Be happy, because if you like an immunization, if you get a when you immunize towards one illness, your body gets ready, prepared. So next time when you get this, the body will know how to fight it on. So that not all disasters and issues are no good, not like that. It is important for you to become a resilient, building up that toughness, so that you are next time when you go to such situation, you know how to deal with that. So try not to stop you from talking about it. You can always talk about with somebody who is very healthy and trustworthy, and you may also find that feeling get worse, and reminded that you might discuss this with other people like experience, and usually these things can diminish within 4 weeks or something. But then beyond 4 weeks to 5 weeks, if you're going to have these problems, then you need to get help, because these things can cause, like Dr. Kasi said, you can have post-traumatic stress disorder, acute stress disorder, which is normal. And we also talk about depression, anxiety, and grief, guilt, and there is so much, in using alcohol and drugs and so on. So the mental health is a big, huge thing, and you really don't know how you are dragged in. So within 4 weeks or so, if you have that common response, I don't think you all should be worried about it. Okay. The next slide we go on to talk about. So some people benefit from extra help, but then one thing I want to say, I'm not frightening you. This, you don't get afraid of anything. It's not a sign of weakness. It's an indication that you're not that you're losing your mind. It's not a weakness. Just be strong, because we are learning. Because after this session, you actually understand what is normal and when will it become abnormal that you need help. Okay. So I'm focusing on disaster and trauma, because I think everybody has done a beautiful presentation. The next slide goes on to talk about how do we you may need further assistance. Of course, you need to go ahead. Sometime you can describe that you might feel numb, empty, and so on. You may find yourself keeping busy that all the time in order to avoid unpleasant thoughts. These things can happen. You have no friends, no family people to talk about it. You are using alcohol and all these things. You must get help. The slide I have put, if any one of you going through such thing, then it's good to get some help from mental health agencies closer to you. Okay, the next slide shows you. So how do you adjust? So some of the ideas I want to tell you, the general principles. So you want to take home self-help. How can we, now we are going through such thing. We don't want to get scared. It's normal reaction. Now it's going, what can we do within that 4 weeks? The one of the thing is a general principle is to recognize that you are going through a stressful experience. You need to acknowledge it. If you don't identify, how are we going to work on it, the recovery process? So seek out other people's physical and emotional support by talking about your feelings, and also will understand particularly that who had similar experiences. We can like sharing, we are all sharing on this forum. Okay, the next slide. So I'm trying to give you, so what will you do physically? Okay, now these are things for self-help is very important. I remember, I just wanted to go back on Dr. Kasi talking about psychological first aid. Now I think really this forum must know to spend some get some training on psychological first aid, which will make you very strengthened to for your own self and your friends and your profession, what you are very passionately have chosen. So one of the things, okay, that is something I just wanted, it came in my mind, and I'm just trying to stress on it. Now, the helpful hints that you can go physically: get plenty of rest. Even if you can't sleep, you must have a good rest. Eat regularly, well balanced meals, and also regular exercise like walking, cycling, jogging, doing something, because the stress and the trauma which has created the bad stress, that is the one which have an impact to create high blood pressure, blood sugar, cancer, and all these things, the non-communicable disease. So you need to get back to regular exercises. Even like I'm also the same, I'll say, oh, I need tomorrow, but I think you as a group of people must write it down and start doing these things. You will be the excellent fit journalist. Reduce your use of stimulant. I love drinking coffee, but you must know how much you can drink for a day, how much, it take care of your body. Don't be hyped up, and do not try to numb the pain with a drug and alcohol. It's a over the period of time, it becomes not right for you. Make time for relaxation. You may wish to learn techniques. I've actually got some uh, flyers for you, even if we don't have time. And I'm sure Nabil will share with you. You can use that as someone, choose what is suitable to you to get that relaxation, and some of the techniques of deep muscle relaxation, meditation, yoga, breathing exercise will definitely help you, even on a place where you're sitting and doing it, writing up your cases. Okay, next slide. Physically, I have given you. So how do you do with the behavior? Trying to resume your normal routine quickly as possible. You don't take too long to get back into activities or work. Avoid unpleasant, like we like to avoid and run away. You don't go back soon as possible. Sometimes you will want to be alone. Of course, it's you can always get yourself to be alone, cry, and be, feel that you wanted to loudly cry out or do. It's okay, rotten feeling, do it. But you don't stay there too long. You have to get back. Okay, do things you enjoy and be nice to yourself. Try to schedule at least one pleasant activities that each day you must enjoy it. Of course, I love spirituality, like you love prayer. You need to release, as a psychiatrist, we need to release it back to someone who trusts. And I think many of you, if you are very prayerful, I think God is everything. So prayerful is very, very important. Create that situation of some prayer time for you. You may wish to try and help others who have been through the similar situation. Then you might feel start better. Don't make any major lifestyle decisions at that time, to change the jobs and these things following trauma. Don't do all those things, because you may make wrong decisions. So it is important to help to re-establish the feeling that you are control over your life, and then you work on it. Okay, so the next slide. Thoughts. So recurring thoughts, it's very important, because sometimes you have this flashbacks. That's with the post-traumatic stress disorder. So don't fight it over them, because it will decrease, like I said, within 4 weeks. But then you can also, after 4 weeks, if you're having such things, then you need to get help. Talk about the incident and how you are feeling to the people who care for you. And even though this process is painful, and best way of coming to terms with experiences. Some people find that keeping journal, some like it that way, especially that you cannot talk to people. That's fine, you can do it. So you choose that, what I have given you to for your self-care, to get back yourself. Okay, the next slide. uh, yeah. So emotionally, we also give yourself permission to feel rotten, like I said, and you have been going through this bad, unpleasant, and don't overreact. Of course, you will know that you can cope after some time, and you are having a no, must remember you're having a normal reaction, and don't label yourself as crazy. So whatever the trauma, disaster, and all these things, there are many things we can do. I think these are some of the helpful hints for yourself to be strong and strengthen and become a resilient, a strong person to do the work that you have done. The next slide. Okay, the family like members, like friends, because sometimes people don't understand what you're going through. You are the one who is going through. People around you may not know. So I want to say, really want to say, spend time with the traumatized person. You know, if your friend or your family members, reassure them that they are okay, they will get back. Offer support and listening ear, even if they have not asked for help, and help them with everyday tasks like cooking, caring. That if I'm talking about, if you want to do that for your own family, if you're going through together, and don't take it personal if they want to be alone sometime. Don't take their anger or whatever they are going through, the irritability and things. You should know that is normal response to trauma. Don't tell them that they are lucky it wasn't the worst, or they should forget it, or pull themselves together, or this kind of things you shouldn't be telling, because they may not like it. But give them that support to strengthen them, and given them the empathize, you feel for that person, sit and listen, and it can bring that situation much more effective. The next slide. I think if we come to the end of the slides, and after the trauma, I think this is like I have put our line, National Mental Health Hotline. But I'm saying that anybody, you need to reevaluate your life and appreciate a little things that you might have overlooked, and try and identify positive aspect of your life and your family, and you have to move on. So all what I can say, that probably Nabil, we can just, because before my moderator stopped me, I Nabil, we want to just go through some of the flyers I had with you. You just wanted to tell them that it is existing. So I have got these techniques that Nabil, I can see only my face now. You better show the techniques. Okay, distraction techniques. I think I've got that with Nabil, some of the coping disaster, adjusting and common response, I've shared with him, and I'm sure he's going to share with you. And practical skills to overcome disaster, the way to reduce arousal and breathing control, and also muscle relaxation techniques, and also crisis distraction techniques. Okay, and these are some flyers, coping self statements, because not everybody will like this kind, like everything. So you have to choose that I want to share with you all, that some of the practical way. And there is another one of, I've got a flyer for you guys, is to have practical skill to overcome disaster and trauma are essential for both personal resilience and community recovery. So in that, we talked about like mindfulness, and then crisis communication skills, and problem solving and decision making, and self-care practices, building social support and network, and emergency preparedness, and emergency emotional regulation, like coping strategies, and flexibility and adaptability, seeking professional help when you really need to get, and community resilient building. These are some of the strategies I wanted to share. I think because my time is 10 minutes, I will leave that to you guys, and I really wanted you all to share. I wanted to share. But let me tell you, in Papua New Guinea, and journalists did make a big difference to the mental health services. And
Thank
we
you.
have done a reform in mental health because of journalists. So I want to
Thank you.
thank every
Thank you very
journalist
much,
for
Dr.
supportive. Thank you.
Uma, for
Thank
a
you.
very much, very useful tips actually, and also
Yeah.
suggesting with some referral, peer
Yeah.
support sort of things. So before, I, I was just worried about time, and
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
asked to go through a sort of panel discussion as well, but
Sure.
to do
I've done
justice
it.
with
Yes. Yes.
this discussion part as well, as Nabil informed me of taking some pictures
Yeah.
before we move into panel discussions. I'm actually combining all Many questions indeed that I prepared along with my colleagues at our colleagues at AIBD. And for the best interest of time, I would like to ask all of you to share your insights on two important aspects, considering your presentations, your expertise, and everything. So the first one is that how can newsrooms, the media houses, or newsroom leaders, say editors or media owners, create supportive cultures that address the mental health challenges journalists face in day-to-day life? That is one question. The second one is what role can peer support networks, the colleagues or friends, one who is suffering through several sort of emotional mental health issues, and trauma informed training, as you are referring, some of you are referring, play in protecting journalist mental health? So these are two questions: one, the newsroom's role, editor's role addressing the issue, and peer support organizations help journalists come out of these situations. These are two questions, but please feel free to share your thoughts as well. And meantime, if there are any questions from the audience, we would definitely share with you. So maybe I would like to go with Dr. Kasi, and please take care of your timing as well. Maybe in 1.5 minutes or 1 minute, if you could quickly respond.
First and foremost, the buddy system is going to do a large amount of a difference in terms of talking about their issues and other things back within their own organization. But three important things are there. The person, when he's ventilating, there needs to be a ear which will be actively listening to that particular story, and also empathize and look at ways and means how he could help or link the person with an appropriate person based on the type of a problem they are having. One of the friend who in the panel itself who underwent the trauma, who is undergoing the trauma, first and foremost needs to have a cathartic effort of talking to many and speaking to many of the situation. That itself will ventilate a large amount. So I am for a buddy situation because that is within the group. People who are psychologically minded and psychologically mended can do a large amount of a benefit, number one. The second issue is in terms of the trauma reduction strategy. Both our speakers have given a large amount of a trauma reduction strategies. But mind you, adaptation is the word before resilience comes in every one of the things. I have undergone the same situation, what you have undergone about 30 years back. For a medical person, entering into the pathology room to see a dead body and body cutting would be a sort of a major stress-producing thing. The same thing applies to us when human feelings are to be kept out and look at as a person, but as a body comes to situation. I can give hundreds of stories like what you said right now, but getting adapted to that vulnerability and other things, definitely there needs to be a debriefing after every particular event which has occurred by the team leader or whoever is the person who is senior most who could handle the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dandy, would you like to respond, particularly, your observation about the newsroom cultures coping with the environment, very briefly?
Thank you. In short, in recent years, I have seen a significant increase in awarenesses about the importance of mental health in newsroom. In the past, there was a tendency to focus on speed and result with little attention to the psychological impact of the job. However, now more and more newsrooms are beginning to understand that mentally healthy journalists will be more effective in producing high quality reporting. Many large media outlets have started implementing policies to support employee well-being, such as providing adequate time off offering access to professional counseling, and establishing program to maintain work-life balance. In my outlets, actually, in my company, um, there is a serious workshop actually to address the mental problem affairs with holding many discussion and um, finding a solution of the issue actually. So I think now newsrooms start addressing the core problem or mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dandy. Afia, given your experience coming from journalism and also in the presentation, you touched on how, the newsroom resilience. So, what role can peer support networks play in creating resilient newsrooms, and how can they be effectively established?
So thank you very much. And actually, I'm humbled to be in the panel where Mr. Chaudhary has shared such personal experiences, because many journalists go through this and then they don't articulate it, and that is why they keep it bottled, and that affects their mental health. Now, the other thing is what Mr. Dandy has said works for most newsrooms. But unfortunately, the bigger media houses or big newsrooms are getting fewer and far between. The smaller outlets, very small, working really on shoestring budgets and very small staff, there's a growth in that. And then there is the category when Mr. Kasi had said the vulnerable, that word resonated because freelancers are vulnerable because they don't come within any the parameters. And the other people, other than the journalists, if you broaden that, the media practitioners fraternity, is the camera person and his assistant who's just, dragging the wire behind the camera, or the driver of PDSNGs and the technical staff who go along to these hotspots for the to help the reporter cover. They are not talked about at all. So they also help the media outlets. They help carry the news forward. If they were not there, the reporter would not have been able to do the job. So individuals like Mr. Chaudhary are doing stellar work. And because they don't belong to any one media outlet, they do not have recourse to assistance from any of those. So then there need to be these other sort of supra media houses, channels like well-being centers. There are a couple of them now that have been established in Pakistan, but it's a big country and there are too few people who are able to access it. But at least there is this realization that we need assistance for the journalists. So yes, absolutely. Sometimes, like both you and Ms. Uma has said, that all you need is a sounding board. Sometimes, at the beginning, the first stage is a sounding board. Sometimes just saying things lightens your heart and lightens your mental burden. And then, the comorbidities, yes, none of us ever thought of those. I don't think any media house thinks when there is a fire, whether you're sending a reporter who's already asthmatic, you don't know that. You just say, whoever is available, go cover that fire. Or any, chemical factory fire. So the fumes are toxic. These things need a greater mapping by the HR, by the media houses are not as sensitized or as scientifically arranged as we would like them to be, especially in light of what Mr. Sarkar and Ms. Uma has said, because these considerations have not really been factored into. So I think they are very important, and also recognize the worth and value of freelancers as well as other media practitioners who help to get the news out.
Thank you,
They need it.
Afia.
Thank
I
you.
would like to move on to Cameroon. Uh, as you shared your own personal experience as well, coping with the emotional stops you suffered, have you noticed any gaps in the support system, and how would you like to see, stakeholders addressing the support gap? in mental health issues of journalists?
He's muted.
You are muted, Kamran.
Can
Perfect.
you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Journalism, what I think, is a profession of apprenticeship, because you have to experience day to day from your seniors and the management. What Dr. Afia has mentioned is that I want to add to this her point is that for setting up any media houses, the companies, the entrepreneurs can spend millions. They can be big buildings, air-conditioned rooms, very good chair, tables, setup, computer, software, so blah, blah, blah. But unfortunate part is that when the question of journalist welfare comes, they're very miser. And one of the reason is that the leadership, the editor or the management, the person in charge, they do not want to increase the cost of the news media outlets. They think that should be viable, so they have to keep the price down. So they will be giving every sort of bonus, sorry, bounties and whatever need. They will be giving very good attention to the advertisement, to the circulation, to the transport department, but they will not give IT section, but they will not give it to the proper attention to the journalists, because who are the vehicle of the whole institution. Another is that in most of the cases, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, what I can say, the editor remains the professional, but the second man, the managing editor or the executive editor who holds the power of the company, investing company, he is from the general background. He is more interested in secure their interest, and there is some supra grouping in that. Try to keep the journalist sidelined, because they know journalists are well connected. They have a very good connection with the leaders and so and so. So this is one of the problems. So they do not take into consider the mental health condition of the journalist. Even they do not, when you leave the job, they will not be interested to give you the compensation. In some cases, there are hundreds of examples you'll get in my country. So journalists are the most neglected personnel in media houses in Bangladesh. The managing director will be using a Lexus, $1 million Lexus, but the journalist will be using a scooter, hardly. This is the situation. So they have taken for granted that journalists are very cheap. They can be given very small amount of money, and what they will get, where will they go? It is the attitude. If journalists are taken as granted, why will they think about our mental health issue, which is much bigger issue? I think it is a sophisticated issue. So but my question is, if they invest more on the mental health impact, mental health issue, the organization will be the benefit, will be getting the benefit, what I tell. And the second question you, moderator, raised is that what are the ways peer connection? What we do in most of the cases informally, by which we are still in comparatively better shape, is that we have some professional groups, bodies, like I was the General Secretary of Bangladesh Parliament Journalists Association for 9 years. So what we do, we sit at a meeting or informal meeting, we share our experience, what they have got, what I have got, my colleague has got. So we share our experiences and try to vent out the anger, or what do I say? Because in most of the cases, we cannot write all the things what we have witnessed, we have gathered. So this is the way, and there are some professional bodies of journalists like Press Club or the Unity or the individual associations who can take the initiative for the mental health of the journalist, work with the relevant national agencies such as National Mental Health Institute in Bangladesh and the Counseling Institute at the police, so Counselors Association. That can be a support, and we have to start thinking in this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kamran. Dr. Uma Ambi, you shared very useful tips in your presentations, but at this point, I would like to ask you, what are your recommendations, or how would you recommend to journalists, preparing with the self-care strategies for journalists, particularly in an working environment where journalists or newsrooms, newsmakers are kept in isolations? or challenging environment?
Yeah, I think it's a important thing is to get all journalists to get trained and be prepared, so that being prepared will always allow to have a self-respect for them, because it's not that somebody else's drama shouldn't affect us. So it's a, I will go into proper training and preparedness for this group of special group of people, and also immediate like to working in teams, is another thing, like buddy system he was talking about, but working in teams and working in ready to availability as supports at the scene or outside. Like example, we have community mental health system without any fees, free of charge, so that they can walk in not to a psychiatric clinic, but it's a community mental health team where there's no stigma and discrimination. They can walk in and get help. And also better training and advocacy within the media organizations, and we have to keep on teaching them and training them is one of those important. And also breaks as required and limited limitation in the shift, so it goes back to some for the people who organize, and they're looking after the journalists, and also from our side we need to also think of them. So we coming from different group of people, we can always address the issue with more self-care. It's all about keep educating the group all the time. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, everyone. But if anyone wants to share any personal experience briefly among our audience, or any questions to our panelists, because I haven't received any questions in the chat box.
May I say something?
Please, very quickly.
So, yeah, very quickly, we must also remember that when we speak of disasters and other conflict zones, many journalists are working within them, and they are also victims of that same disaster that they are supposed to cover.
Yes.
So their mental health is doubly jeopardy. There's this double jeopardy they are working with. So we need to give special focus to them.
Just
Okay.
That's what the PFA is one, and counseling, immediate counseling, freely given to them. They will always accessible to them. So that gives them also free to walk in and get help early.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Nabil is reminding me for a group photo with the speakers. And but before, since we don't have any questions around, meantime, when we are taking photo with the speakers, yeah, Nabil.
Okay, so first we will be having a group photo with the speakers and AIBD CEO, and with the count of 3, 2, 1. All right. After that, we will be having a group photo with all of the participants. But before that, I would like Mr. Lakshman that you summarize today's session before we can have a closing remarks by Ms. Philomena, and then we can have a group photo with all the participants. Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Lakshman.
Thank you, Nabil, and thank you everyone for this very much required and very much important issues, and bringing into this table very important insights from different part of the world, and particularly in South Asia, Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific. And I'm actually enlightened, starting my career as a journalist, then now working for defending free press in Nepal and across the world through the alliances that Media Action Nepal engages with. And thank you very much. I have just noted down 5 key takeaways from this panel discussion, that all we need to focus on fostering supportive newsroom cultures, that some of our panelists shared about their personal stories as well. So this is one thing. I'm not going into detail, but I would be happy to, pass on these my notes to our colleagues at AIBD later on. The second thing, depending upon, based on your presentations and your insights, my observations on your insights, that we need to be culturally sensitive, and for which we need to look for mental health approaches based on socio-cultural circumstances of a given society. The third one is to integrate trauma-informed reporting in newsrooms and outside newsrooms. And the fourth takeaway that I would like to share here as a moderator is to focus on the role of peer support networks, as all of our panelists highlighted on that. And the last but not the least is to advocate for structural changes in our mindset, also to be more empathetic towards sufferings that reporters usually go through. So these five key takeaways from the panel discussions today, but I'm so happy that AIBD provided me this opportunity to moderate a very much of distinguished panel. With this note, I would like to stop here and I pass on to Nabil. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lakshman. Now, very quickly, we'll be moving towards the closing remarks by Ms. Philomena Nyanavargasam, and then we'll be having a group photo for our social media thing. Ms. Philomena, just a moment. Just spotlight you.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Philomena, the grade is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Nabil. And thank you to everyone who have joined us from 2 o'clock right up to it's 4:15 in Malaysia right now. That means this webinar has been going on for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I'm very happy to see that many countries are joining as a group. Also happy to note that Mr. Dandy is finally found out of the car now, Dandy. Thank you for joining us, yeah? Thank you for making the time. And to all the speakers from
Thank you.
Pakistan,
Thank you for inviting me.
right?
Thank you.
From Bangladesh, and from India, Dr. Kasi Sekar, from PNG, Dr. Umar, and did I miss out anyone? I think you had a wonderful moderator and a good session prepared by Nabil and his team. So I think the key word here, if you look at today's webinar, is prioritizing mental health for media practitioners. So the key word that I'd like to focus on is prioritizing. I think that's very, very important. We need to give this a lot of priority. And I think someone mentioned about a support system. Now, journalists usually like to work in silo. And if you notice, most of us, all of us here who might have journalistic training, you're known for your silo, approach. You're alone. But this is so important because you need to form a support group with other journalists, not just from your organization, but journalists from your own country or your own district, especially when you're covering issues pertaining to crisis. And I think all of you, we are now living in a very troubled times. We're not just talking about war, but also a lot of climate change, a lot of natural disasters. So I think we have to be really prepared. And I did text Dr. Umar and also Dr. Kasi, and perhaps Dandy and our colleagues from both Pakistan as well as Bangladesh. Perhaps, what we can also do besides sharing these slides, Nabil and team, is to actually do a compilation of whatever we have discussed today. So takeaways from all our speakers, and perhaps creating a special document on mental health. And this can then be shared to all our members all over the Asia Pacific. Africa is also joining us, all over the world. I think this is a good approach rather than just finishing it off with one webinar. Agreed? So thank you so much once again. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you. It's back to Nabil.
Thank you very much, Ms. Philomena. And as she mentioned, that the things won't be stopping here. We will be definitely not only giving you sharing all the presentations and the recording, the edited version without some glitches. We will be sharing with you all, and also the output report of this specific subject. And definitely, the thing is that if you have by chance attended our 19th Asia Media Summit this year in Malaysia, Ms. Philomena mentioned that even in the closing ceremony, that in 2025, we will be having multiple activities on crisis reporting on this mental health and safety for journalists. So stay tuned for that thing. And I would, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, do subscribe at youtube.com/TVAIBD and Facebook as well, facebook.com/MYAIBD. So there will be plenty and plenty of activities, and I would like to thank all of our esteemed speakers and moderator that they joined and shared us very insightful uh, presentations. So, can we have a very quick group photo?
Everyone should smile. It's so serious here.
Okay, anyone else turning on their cameras? Okay.
So maybe it's gallery. Everybody can see your face.
Yes. And if you have any suggestions, do let us know as well at training@aibd.org.my, so we can have more information packed activities for you as well. And also, like if your organization wants to have this in-country workshop, AIBD has developed modules on mental health and other safety for journalists training activities. Do feel free to write us on that thing. All right, so now I think we can have this thing. So on the count of three, just a moment. Oh, let me just unspotlight myself. Okay, and on the count of three, two, one. And I hope my colleagues have also screenshotted this thing. Okay, yeah, everyone's eyes are okay. So thank you very much. This was like
yeah,
indeed
Nabil,
a
for
very.
the
Thank you.
January,
Bye-bye.
yeah, January webinars, Nabil.
Oh, yes. Thanks for reminding, Ms. Nuria. So the year 2024 has bit ended. It was like indeed a very happening year. We had done so many things. So, but now the very first thing which we'll be having is that in 2025, we are having plenty of activities. And Ms. Nuria, if you can mention that what we can expect in January 2025.
Yeah, thank you, Nabil. So for 2025, we will start with a very interesting talk, webinar, power webinar with goal setting in 2025. We will send out the project outline soon. Coming next Monday, we will send the project outline for two webinars in January. So the first one is goal setting in 2025. And second one is effective real-time fact-checking and verification for newsroom. So please looking forward to your participation and also many questions for this fact-checking and also for goal setting. Thank you. Back to you, Nabil.
Thank you. This is, of course, not a Marvel movie, so there won't be any post-credit scenes. So, but anyways, if anyone has any comments, any suggestions, feel free to unmute your mic and just suggest us something.
Just a big thank you to everybody, and it's a great learning from each other. Thank you. Great opportunity.
Thank you, everyone. And I just want to say hello to Dr. Amal.
Oh,
I
wow.
saw you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember we met in Asia Media Summit in Malaysia.
And also
Yeah.
I permit to leave earlier because I have another meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Since Dr. Amal is here and he's also very closely monitoring Vanuatu's current situation. So, Dr. Amal, if you can just guide us that what's next for the media industry, especially related to this safety for journalists. So, yes, please.
Yeah, no, I think as I told you on the day before yesterday, so they had this tragic event and they are still going through sort of a recovery process. So at the moment, there are about 14 casualties and still many countries trying to access them because they don't have any communication. So these are other things that we need to be aware of. No transportation is affected, no communication, only through the satellite. And they are slowly restoring the power. So it's hard to communicate with them, but our thoughts are with them. Yeah. And also, Dr. Lakshman, good to see you, and it was a great moderation. Thank you.
Perfect. Ms. Philomena, just last words from you before we adjourn this online session today.
I think everyone is tired. Too much of mental health, huh? Thank you, Dr. Amal. Thank you, Dr. Kasi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
just one word. Next year, we'll be starting our range of power webinars. So those are very interesting sessions. So it's going to be 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and it's going to feature maybe specific, one-to-one interviews as well. So that would be something that I think everyone should look out for next year. And also starting a new thing called our special drill. It's a safety drill. So we'll be bringing more of this to our members, so just look out for all those emails coming to you from AIBD. So Happy New Year and season's greetings. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice weekend. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for sharing.
Bye.
Thanks, Nabil. Thank you to the AIBD team. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, good work, everyone.
Thank you, Nabil.